Did you know that in CK3's new beta branch and upcoming update, Scribe 1.19, a number of new kingdoms and empires have been added? One that really caught my eye is the Carthaginian Empire. You can form it as a Mashriqi character if you are independent, hold a kingdom title, are exalted among men, and control the 4 regions of former Carthaginian lands. So what do you actually get? First, the empire title itself. Your dynasty gains the Carthaginian Ruler modifier, boosting development. You also get 1,000 renown. On top of that, you unlock the decision to adopt Carthaginian culture. It starts with an impressive 5 culture traditions. Honestly, it's a pretty fun addition. So, what does that have to do with today's video? Well, with Carthage back on the map, it's time to bring back one of history's greatest rivalries, Rome versus Carthage. See who truly comes out on top. We'll set up the timelapse with both nations roughly the same size, each led by an immortal ruler with 100 stats. They both running administrative governance so that if their ruler dies early, the fight won't just fizzle out. We also surround them with weak duchies to keep them focused on their clash. Let's see who wins this CK3 timelapse. "543 years have passed in our Rome versus Carthage timelapse. As you can see, neither empire still stands. It's a bit of a shame, but honestly, it feels like the inevitable fate for both of these powers. Since this was played on the new patch, we now have access to the ledger, which gives us way more information than we ever had before, stuff we used to piece together manually. For example, we can now see the richest character in the world. At the top is the Empress of Italia. with over 1 million gold, followed by a mix of random landless nobles, some holy orders, and even a few mayors. The holy orders having massive wealth makes sense. They don't really have much to spend it on, so they just keep hoarding gold for centuries. Another great addition is the tracking of the strength of each faith. We can now see the total followers, combined military strength, and even which religion has the most sinful and virtuous rulers. Right now, the most powerful faith is Ashar with 2 million soldiers. Meanwhile, the Catholics somehow managed to be both the most sinful and the most virtuous at the same time. We can also check which culture has spread the most, and a bit surprising, Mongolic comes out on top with 69 counties, nice, followed by Han and Yamato. Now let's check in on the two immortals. Sofet Musa the Shrewd lived an impressive age of 110 before disappearing without a trace. In his later years, it seems he went a bit mad, indulging heavily in the carnal vices. His empire lasted from 867 all the way to 1306 before being destroyed by a random caliph. For most of its history, it was ruled by an Al-Brus family member, and interestingly, they still are around, with some living members within the Italian Empire. As for Rome, their immortal didn't last nearly as long. He disappeared at the age of 61, also without a trace. The Roman Empire itself survived until 1290, which with its final ruler being Marco the Hideous. But that real standout here is High Priestess Modia. She rose to power in 1174, lost the title just a year later to a rival branch of her family, then patiently waited and reclaimed it in 1184, only to die of smallpox in her prime. If we're calling a winner here, Carthage takes it, lasting longer and having far more successful dynasty after their fall. Taking a step back to look at the wider world, Europe is now divided between Italy, Lyon, and somehow the Greater Moravia, which has taken over the succession to West Slavia. Alba is also still hanging around. In the east, the hegemon dominates most of China, Japan, and under a Yamato ruler, which is something you don't see every day. As usual, Srivijaya controls much of Southeast Asia. Religiously, Catholicism has become dominant, but interestingly, Hellenic has migrated into the region where Orthodox would normally reign, and Ari also makes a rare appearance as one of the major faiths. Looking at the government types, each Han has its own regional stronghold, but clan government seems to have the largest presence overall. Tribal governments somehow still surviving this late into the game, though they're probably struggling, especially out in Siberia due to the development. What surprises me the most is Italia never reformed Rome. They clearly have the land and the wealth to do it, but for whatever reason, they just never pulled the trigger with the Second Empire to do so. Before we wrap up, let's jump back into the ledger one last time. We can now track the known killers, and the leaderboard goes to Queen Kumara with 10 kills. Whether she's just incredibly bloodthirsty or terrible at keeping secret, who knows, but either way, congrats to her. Another interesting tab is artifacts. We can now see their age and claimants. The oldest items in the run are the Banner of Thankfulness and the Al-Safi Al-Kas, both sitting around 740 years old. Oddly enough, their record to history only goes back a couple centuries. Meanwhile, the Banka no Hoken can trace its ownership all the way back to the 700s, making it one of the most consistently tracked artifacts in the game. So what did we learn from this time lapse? Simple. The sands of time erase everything. The great powers of the past are gone, replaced by new families and stronger factions. Immortality turns out to be fleeting, especially in the hands of the AI, which often loses it to a rival or a random event that erases the character from history entirely. Hopefully you enjoyed this time lapse. Here's hoping we see the full release of Scribe very soon.